big time battles. Everyone's been kind of keying in on that. But with an injury that happened this week, it might actually open up some doors for some guys who may have been on the bubble with this Kadarius Toney injury. So we're going to go with the receivers. Obviously, everyone who watched the draft show knows Teja was huge on Rashee Rice. Pre-draft, he liked Rashee Rice. And so far during camp, he's doing pretty well. I mean, Mahomes, this is the guy that Mahomes told Veach to go get. Like, he worked out Quentin Johnson. He worked out with Zay Flowers. But he told him Rashee Rice is the guy to draft, which is interesting. And you're already seeing during camp, he's been kind of the go-to guy. Yeah, MVS has caught the bombs and stuff, and Kelce's doing what Kelce does. But Rashee Rice has been not even close the guy for Mahomes in training camp so far. So if you're a fantasy guy, keep that in mind. Maybe mid or late round steal. Yeah, for us who live in the DC area, it's like it's easier for us to go to a guy like Rashee Rice. Whereas, like,
problem is we're in the same leagues with each other, so like we two Chief fans.
Oh. Yep. Someone's got to reach for the guy they want between us. But anyway, so Kadarius Toney out for a while. There's kind of some uncertainty as to when he's going to return. He said he'll be back by week 1, but then Coach Reed was like, well, he wants to be back by week 1, but we're
guys tear ACLs like 2 months ago, and they say they're back for week 1. That's they always say they're back for week 1.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, Pacheco said, I want to run for 1,000 yards. I want to be back by week 1. Yeah, you want to do all of that, but the team, this team's looking for January and February. They don't really care about September. I mean, obviously we do, but like, they're not going to rush you back for September games. So we talked about on the show that the competition at receiver is deep. We have a lot of talent in the room. We saw one guy, Justyn Ross, former first-round pick, holds the record for fastest 40-yard dash time at the Combine, retired this week. And I got to tell you, he told Coach Reed said he didn't really say much. He just said he was kind of done with it, it seemed. And I think it speaks for me. No one's saying this, but I think it speaks for me.
Totally.
It tells you what kind of talent we have in the receiver room and how deep it is.
If I were, let's say I was trying out for a sport and I showed up and I saw like these guys, like let's say it was basketball, and these guys were dunking, like going through between the legs. I'm like, let's go. Like, let's beat the rush out of here. Like, I'm not gonna like why am I gonna waste my time? Like that's I mean, so when a person leaves early in the competition, you usually think when there's a lot of money on the line, you think you can get a roster spot somewhere. Because if you're thinking about it, I know we're going off tangent a little bit, but if you were a receiver trying to make your return, Kansas City is a great place to go to. You're like, okay, like who are these guys? Like their number one receiver is a guy who like hasn't played more than like 7 games in a season. Like, come on, like MVS, a straight line runner. I'm good. Like I got Mahomes. It's a great place to go to. And then you crap out and leave, right in the start of training camp. It's because like, you're like, all right, maybe I can't do this. Maybe these guys, just because I don't know who they are, they can ball. I can't make the team.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Justyn Ross, because losses, and also too, I play college football. If you're half in, man, at a lower level, D2 and D3, if you're half in, yeah, like there's no point being there. And if he's half in, who knows? He may go play XFL or USFL. But if he's half in, I think it's time. I mean, and obviously he retired from the NFL, so I'm curious to see what he does if he goes to play XFL or USFL. That'd be interesting. A guy retired from the NFL to go play in the other leagues. These other leagues, people use them as like a launching pad to get back to the NFL.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. But wish him the best. So anyway, a lot of depth in the receiver room. But I think we were talking about, are we going to keep 7 receivers? And now with Toney's injury, I think it tells you whoever that 7th receiver was, I think they're going to keep that extra guy. And I don't know where that's going to come from. I don't know what position group that's going to hinder, but you need to keep him, especially when your number one guy or so-called number one guy is out with this injury. For those who don't know, partially towards meniscus, had some cartilage in there that they scoped out this week. So he's on track for week 1, as they're saying, but we don't know. So my question to you is, you're hearing a lot of noise about Rashee Rice. We're hearing noise. Even Richie James looked good during camp. MVS, I haven't heard much about MVS. We've heard a lot of good things about Justyn Ross, who's been working out with Mahomes all offseason, getting some wide receiver 1 reps with the first team. But what do you make of the wide receiver room and what you've heard from camp so far, the clips you've seen? And obviously, we'll get to Justyn Ross in a little bit. That's our guy this year. That's our Josh Gordon this year.
Josh
Justyn
Gordon
Ross
this year.
For the Chief Concern show. Hopefully he has got a better outcome than the Josh Gordon situation. But anyway, what do you make of the what you're hearing and what you're seeing from the wide receivers? So far?
I love what's going on. I think receivers, the group that we talked about earlier, is the group that gets the extra spot for the Burton loss, the fullback loss, really, making it 6. So I'll just go down each guy though. So I was a huge Rashee Rice fan. I loved him the entire process. I thought he was a perfect Juju replacement. And you can see why through the clips. I know the PFF guys, a lot of people had some draft analysts had a lot of the biggest problem with Rice is that although he has the speed, it shows up. He tends to kind of contact his cornerbacks. He like almost looks for it. It's good because he's a physical guy. He's got that like Pickens throw you to the ground type thing, but he unnecessarily looks for contact. So even in the clips I've seen where he's caught these balls, the cornerback's like right on him. But the good thing about that part is his best asset his best attribute is that he's great at catching contested balls, like incredible at it. So yeah, I mean, you can have guys draped over you and you maybe not get the separation you want in a guy, but if your best attribute is catching contested balls, then I don't think that's a big deal. And Mahomes is a guy that's going to be running around doing the scramble drill. He was one of the best scramble drill receivers in football. So huge Rice fan. And if there are a lot of guys getting Mahomes, I keep hearing another guy is getting Mahomes trust. The beauty of it, our situation with Kelce too, is that I don't think any receiver's ever going to feel the weight of the world on them. Like they're all basically our number ones and number two at all times with Kelce there. So you're never going to come in having guys be like, oh, I have to become this guy. So Rashee Rice, it's great for him to come in and have no pressure on him at all, just to go and develop, dude, just catch a couple balls, progress, gain my trust, and I'll go to you. I mean, when you have Mahomes telling you that, that's all you need, right? So I'm not surprised by the Richie James reviews. If you go by stats for our guys this year and last year, I think he beats out any of our receivers from last year. He beats out in receptions. He has 57, 569.
Yes.
Only thing MVS beats him out as yards. Everything else, James wins out. So I wouldn't be surprised if James comes out to be our like number one and statistically when you look at the end of the season. Skyy Moore is progressing and gaining his trust. MVS is what he is. His role is carved in stone. He's just the deep line, long receiver. I like Tony a lot. The problem is with the injuries he's had, it's just so hard to rely on him. And I think receivers, one of the groups that if you're going to have a guy like that injured, it's a great group to have it with because there's so many guys that can step up and become that. And I don't think Tony's this well-established receiver to the point where we're like, oh no, what do we do now? Like if Tyreek Hill was still here and he had that injury that Tony had, we'd be a lot more concerned because it's like, who's going to step in to be Tyreek Hill? We're not saying that about Tony. Who's going to step in to be Tony? And do what? Like catch 2 balls for us in a pivotal game? Like Tony hasn't been our like lean on number one receiver. So I'm not as really concerned about that. The last spot really comes down to Ross or Watson, but if Tony starts out on the injured list, which I think there's a high possibility could, even though they're saying track for week 1, then they both make it for now. And that's not even a problem at all. So maybe that's why we saw all this Justyn Ross excessive number 1 reps after Tony went down, right? Isn't that the order of things? Tony went down, and then we started seeing Ross's name running with the number 1s a lot because they're like, look, we might have.
Not actually, no, because he was running with the ones before that, but then you obviously heard more getting involved. He was involved with the ones before that, which is
I saw him. I heard he's running as a gunner. I don't know, man. I don't know if Ross has got special team listed on him, man. A guy with his injury past, I wouldn't be putting him in special teams. But you know what? If he looks like he's healthy, then go for it. But it's a little scary for me. But if you were telling me we had to pick between Watson or Ross, if Ross keeps going at the trajectory he's going right now and getting the trust of Mahomes and the potential he has, I would lean Ross. We know what Watson is. We know what he has. I just think you have to go potential on that one. Now, if Tony starts out on the injured list, all this is moot, and they're both on the roster. So I don't, I'm not. And the problem with Tony also is like, can you ever say he's our guy, right? Because I think he's going to be battling injuries all year. I do. I don't think he's going to be like, on the injured list and be out for the season. I just think he's going to be nicked up a lot. His playing style, and he takes hits too. He takes awkward hits. Like he takes a lot of hits like in move when he's like twisting and turning and gets nailed again. It's just like, oh man. Like the kind of hits that Debo takes, but imagine Debo without his armor. Like it's like, and even Debo gets injured. Debo gets nicked up a lot.
He's a big dude compared to
huge compared to Tony. So it's like, I just can't see how you can't. I mean, and we have the right amount of receivers to account for that. So it's not like if we were paying Tony a lot of money and we had to cut down on the talent of receiver because of it, then that would be a problem. But we have a bunch of Tonys, so I don't think Tony's injury is a big deal, and I think I love our depth at receiver.
Yeah, I love the depth of receiver. I think Skyy Moore is another guy. I didn't mention him in my opening to this, but Skyy Moore has been tearing it up at camp. He's more confident. His routes look great. His get off at the line.
Yeah,
I've seen some of the one-on-ones where he's just like demolishing the DBs. He's looking really good. He's a guy that I could see him. Obviously, MVS, like you said, has his role carved out. He's our deep threat, an expensive deep threat. That is. Based on the rates that everyone's paying receivers right now.
Well, I think that's something. I'm sure it's a later conversation, but that's something. If Ross can keep developing, I think Ross can possibly maybe take on a little more of that big play MVS ability.
Build wise, they're very similar, but the way they play is a little different. Ross,
no, he doesn't, but he can have big plays. I think MVS is our big play, like in the air guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Ross, I mean, I'll talk about Ross in a second here, but man, I could see Skyy Moore and Richie James really having probably top or 1 and 2 as far as numbers, as far as catches, receptions wise this year. Maybe not touchdowns so much, but as far as receptions, I could see both those guys leading our team, leading receivers in receptions. I can see Richie James and Skyy. We're seeing it right now between Richie James, Skyy Moore, and Kelce. The crossing routes, the rub routes that those guys could have, just the possession aspect that those guys can provide to this offense. It'll be pretty fun to see kind of the move the chains. And having as many move the chain type of guys, we haven't really had a lot of many move the chain type of guys in the Mahomes era, really. We haven't really had that. We had a lot of like gadget guys, little speedster guys you can toss a little bubble screen to and they can get some yards. But having 2 receivers who you can count on as far as the breaking tackles, and also just being able to get the first downs, and finding their way across the middle of the field. I'm excited to see how second-year Skyy Moore looks, and also how Richie James looks in this offense, and he's looked great so far during training camp. And I don't know why it's surprised anybody. Why? Because he was in San Francisco, and he wasn't like the top guy there, or he was in New York.
I know.
He was a leading guy last year. And I always forget the stat. He was ranked the number 1 receiver last year as far as balls that were supposed to be incompleted. It's some ridiculous stat. Obviously, ridiculous stat.
Not ridiculous. Daniel Jones is
analytical thing. It's true, but it was like one of those ridiculous stats. I don't know how they get those numbers, but he was the number 1 guy in that category. But Justyn Ross, I don't know if it's the story so much that I want him to succeed that he has. Getting that spinal disease that he had. No, it wasn't an injury. A lot of people think it was an injury. It wasn't an injury. It was an illness or whatever. It was condition. And that, and then, coming back, and no one thought he was going to play a football game. He came back, didn't look right that last year at Clemson. He still played, though. He still had decent numbers, because of the whole thing that he had. People thought he was going to be like a 6th or 7th round person. And, 6th or 7th round. He goes undrafted because medical red flags. No one want to take a risk on it. But we did. We were the team that claimed him. We did the same thing with Trey Smith. No one wanted to touch him with his medical red flags. We drafted him in the 6th round. But we give him kind of a red shirt year. Let him sit out, get right. He's been doing well this offseason. He's been working with Mahomes. Apparently, he's been pretty much with Mahomes at Mahomes' new place that was featured in the Netflix special. He's got a little turf field behind his house. He's been working out with him at that place, which is great. Also, just getting the familiarity. Mahomes has praised him, saying he's really comfortable with him. The coaches have talked about it. I think he's a lock to make the team, because I think it's so much so that, like, if you were going to stash him on your practice squad, that's not a guy you want to stash in your practice squad. High profile name. Everyone knows who he is. He's got a big story. And also, you're praising the crap out of him from May to now. And also,
you're promoting him getting picked up by somebody.
Squad. Yeah, I don't see that happening at all. And I think he's also one thing that I've heard from our receivers coach to Nagy and Andy, they talk about how different he is than all the other receivers, how the big body and like the long frame. Because like if you look at him and MVS, both 6'4" guys, both tall, lanky guys, but they just play so much different. One's a deep threat, one's kind of a little bit of everything. He's made a one-hand snag on McDuffie, which was in team drill, awesome. Ball placement was really good on that, but it was still a one-handed grab. He had one diving catch out of bounds, didn't get his feet in, looked great, but also showed, hey, like he can take. He's taking hits, he's diving for balls. Like that spinal neck thing he had, that spinal fusion. I mean, that's certainly at play here. And then I think yesterday during team, he took a nice little lick. Someone gave, I think, was it Justin Reed? I forgot who it was, but apparently he got a nice little hit in the middle of the field. But hey, he's taking hits in team. The guy's cured from his injury. I mean, the whole spinal fusion thing. I mean, everyone needs to get that out their head. As far as special teams, you talked about him being gunner. Apparently, that's one of the big things he's trying to do everything to get a job and stay on the field. He's doing special teams. I think I saw him catching for punt returns and kick returns. That's never going to be a guy who's doing punt returns or kick returns, even when before the spinal injury, he wasn't doing that stuff. So like him doing that, I get it. He wants to stay. He's doing whatever he can to stay on the team and stuff. But yeah, as a gunner, I don't think he should be. He should be far away from that. And I think they know that. There's, letting him do all the stuff that he's got to. I don't think there's no way if he makes a team, he's going to be playing any special teams. There's no chance. Maybe all hands team, an onside kick, possibly, but that's about it. But yeah, I'm excited about him. I like the fact that we have Ross and Rice. I mean, I know Ross second year technically, but you have his first year in the league, and you have Rice, the R squared, as we made the graphic on Twitter yesterday. The R squared, those two guys who could be the future of the receiver room. I know people may joke about that. And I think Lance, the Spoken, he talked about how people are putting too much pressure for Justyn Ross to succeed. I don't think people are putting too much pressure on him to succeed. No, there's no pressure.
It's full of early first and second round picks. There's no pressure.
I know, but I think it's just that I know what Lance is saying, because he was a big name and people want Ross to succeed so badly.
I think it's a bonus if he succeeds. No one's counting on him no one's counting on him being an integral part of the offense. If he does, then it's like, whoa, we're stacked. But if he's not, then we're not hurting. That's why everyone said KC was the perfect place for him to come to. It's also the same reason why the other Ross came to try to see if he can get back to his NFL, because it's a good place to come to. His player comp out of college, by the way, was Corey Davis, which I think is pretty good. It's a good comp for him. Yeah.
Justyn Ross.
I like that. I've always said if Jets got rid of Corey Davis, I'd love Corey Davis. I think he'd be perfect for the Chiefs offense.
And also another thing, just want to throw this out there. Before the spinal fusion, Justyn Ross is supposed to be a first-round pick. Just saying. Just saying for all those people out there who just don't think this guy is worth anything. He's something, and he's gonna make the team. And I think for me, preseason, in the Mahomes era, especially since we've been kind of not been able to spend the last few years with Mahomes, and Jones and big contracts we've had. I think preseason's become more fun to watch than we had in the past, whereas we're literally relying on some of these guys to be playing in the first, second, and third quarters of these games.
Oh, yeah. Preseason's huge for us. Yeah, it really is.
Huge.
Especially after this last year, we have a new formula. And now the formula is young guys have to step the hell up. And if there's any pressure, that's a pressure. But the beauty of Ross's position he's in, it's a really good position group. So it's you don't have to come in and be, Corey Davis, or I've also Mike Williams. You don't have to be Mike Williams light on our team. Just slowly just get integrated and just get his trust, man. That's what they keep saying. I think once you have Mahomes' trust, I don't think he gives a shit about who, where you were drafted, how much money you make. I don't think he cares about any of that. And all that was stopped the moment Tyreek Hill left. all the whole like you have to throw to this guy, you have to throw to that guy. I don't think he wants to throw to like anyone. I think he kind of has to throw to Kelce a lot for a lot of reasons. But I mean, I just think he wants to just sling it whoever is open just for a split second.
Yeah. And also, I'm starting to see a trend here with the running backs and receivers that we have. We're getting a lot of guys who are just hungry. Richie James has never been a high caliber guy in the league. It doesn't make much. 1 year, $5 million deal. Justyn Ross, undrafted guy. Skyy Moore, second round pick. Yeah, I know we have 2 second round picks on the team, but like Rice and Skyy Moore are still guys trying to prove themselves. One's a Western Michigan guy, one's an SMU guy. MVS, he's making good money, but never a top dog anywhere. But I would say he's the only one who probably he has his niche carved out. Tony, another guy who's been doubted.
MVS in his own way
being in the league,
wants to have his contract continued, right? Because he's making big money, so he might get cut or waived next year. He's playing to see like, okay, I'm worth that money you want to keep giving me. So it's still important for him too.
Yeah. It's a collection of skill players who are scrappy guys just trying to showcase themselves with the best quarterback in the NFL. It's just interesting. It's a cool spot, and it's also awesome that like all these guys we're mentioning, they've been working out with Mahomes since February. Since the Super Bowl ended, they've been in Texas working out with Mahomes. So it's like Justyn Ross has been putting in the work. Skyy Moore's been putting in the work. Richie James, as soon as we signed him, he was down in Texas. Rashee Rice was down in Texas. Obviously, it was pretty much a tryout, but like he was down in Texas. All these guys have been working their asses off, and so they've been working with this timing. And so, like for me, when people ask me, "Oh, who's gonna be the number 1 guy this year?" I don't know because it could be anybody at any given week at any given time. It's never gonna know. Just like last year, it's gonna be a different person each week. And yeah, I think it's the same thing this year, but early indications point to Mahomes liking Rashee Rice and Richie James. That's as of this week. We'll see next week. Next week it could be a different guy altogether. It could be Justyn Ross.
Right now, do you think we have a 1,000-yard receiver? Do you think we have a 900-yard receiver?
No. 900. Who I think we'll have a couple 700 and 800 guys maybe. Because last year we had the 900 with Juju. You had 700 with MVS.
High sixes. 687, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to have a lot of guys in the 500 to 800 range.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And I don't think Rice will be, but not Rice. Actually, I don't know. Based on history with the rookie receivers since Andy Reid being in Kansas City, that has not happened. I think only over 500 yards once, I believe, from a rookie receiver. I don't think
this is also the first year we don't have like a former or present bona fide number 1 receiver.
I said
past or present. He's been a number 1 in his past.
Okay.
And when you look at the depth chart, anyone that listed our depth chart had Juju number 1 receiver up there. I guess MVS is listed as that, but like, come on, like MVS has always been a complimentary guy. He's not a number 1, so who knows? They could change. If there's a year to change that, it could be this year.
Yeah. I mean, look at Skyy Moore's numbers last year. I think people are going to see that. That's the thing. They're 2 totally different types of receivers, Rice and Skyy Moore. So their numbers could be totally different. My thing was if Ross has the 500 or 600 yards this year, well, I think you could just give us a first class ticket to the Super Bowl, because if Ross is putting up numbers like that, a guy no one sees doing that, sky's the limit for this team in offense this year.
And if Skyy Moore has 500, that's double what he had last year. So doubling your production from year 1 to year 2 is great. So I know people might say 500, oh man, but like that's doubling his production.
Yeah. It's a right trajectory. And also I do think he's been one of the guys who gets the 500, 800 yard range.
I would hope so.
I hope so too. Because I'm looking at like how is Mahomes going to hit the markers that he hit it last year with guys not hitting the 1,000 yards. Obviously, we're talking about receivers, not tight ends. But when people keep saying, "Oh, Kelce's going to decline at some point here," well, whenever that does happen, we're going to have the other guys stepping up.
Because Juju almost got 1,000. He got like 9 something, and then Harbin had like 300. So about like 1,200.
Yeah.
So they have like 1,200 yards to make up pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You get a couple of guys getting 400 yards.
Well, let's just say
1,200 yards right there.
We said Skyy Moore should get 500. So let's just say 300 more right there.
Yeah.
Let's give Rice 400. That's 700 right there. You give like Justyn Ross, like let's just go low. Let's go like 200 or 250 or let's go 200. 900 right there. And then Richie James, you give him like 300-400.
Yeah, and I think Richie James.
But like, think about that. We went low though. We didn't like go nuts on anybody. Like it's normal numbers for them. I didn't even say give MVS like another 100 because you could easily say that.
And we're not even talking about the aspect of having Deneric Prince's catches.
We also didn't talk about Tony
either. Or Tony, yeah.
So I mean, honestly, I don't see why he should. I mean, yeah, you could have an even better year with what he's got.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like we said, the receiver room, you could talk all day long about each one of these guys. So like, it's gonna be interesting to see how things play out. And I can't wait till week 1 of preseason. I can't. Yeah, watching the third and fourth quarter, seeing guys like come in and seeing how they dominate. And with the amount of guys who are rotating with the ones like during training camp, I'm curious to see which ones are be playing the first and second quarter.
Yeah,
which ones get the third quarter, fourth quarter reps.
I know
so many guys are rotating at one. So it's interesting. And I know there's a lot of Justin Watson fans out there. He signed a 2-year deal, and I know someone's like commented on one of the tweets I had. Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal, but we can cut him with pretty much no penalty, guys. So like that doesn't just because he signed a 2-year deal doesn't mean anything.
I mean, it's funny because I haven't heard his name that much at all.
No, well, some of the guys who've been commenting on our channel have been saying we've been one of the few channels that's been giving positive press for Justyn Ross, and then saying how like guys like Justin Watson are getting like unfair like credit posts from Arrowhead Pride and other YouTube channels. Just like he has one catch. Oh man, Justin Watson, a sure-handed grab down the middle. Like, and I think I saw the clip too. It wasn't even like that impressive with a grab, but then Justin Watson, it's like, oh no, like, I think I'm going to the team. Doesn't matter. It's like, no, not Justin Watson. Justyn Ross not going to make the team.
We'll see.
Whatever.
Yeah, I trust. That's the beauty of having. I always say it's the beauty of having a management and coaching staff that you trust. That you don't have to second guess things all the time and be like, well, you made the wrong decision. Like they're not. They have no favoritism. They're keeping who they think is the best player.
Yeah. It's funny too because last year this time everyone's like, oh, Mahomes trusts Justin Watson. Okay, well, who's Mahomes trust this year? Because Mahomes has been working out with Justyn Ross, and I've heard more talk about Justyn Ross Mahomes than I've heard Justin Watson and Mahomes. And we know we're getting with Justin Watson. Justyn Ross, as you said earlier on, he's got the potential, and I think I'm here for Justyn Ross. I think if he makes the team, I'm saying it right now, I'm going to get a Justyn Ross jersey.
It's definitely a sexier name, that's for sure.
For sure. And it's also a sexier and more of a compelling story. It's the whole scope. He's got the whole package going. That story is if he makes a team and actually does something with his team, whether it's this year or next year, that's gonna be a story. You could see like a TV movie out of that at some point.
No, I'm not joking. Not.
That's serious.
I'll
write the script for that. All right, and Justyn Ross has been a guy I've been trying to get on the show for a really long time since last year. So we're still trying to make that happen. So
I want to make the team first, and then
that ever happens. I get it. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.